fantasy-esque play. I guess you can say that of fantasy. He's fantasy-esque. Vulture harass there from him, and he's going to come back here to another base. Jaedong still running his Hydras up. He has, I think he has Hydra speed now, so he'll be able to, oh, he's taking the double gas, so Jaedong is going for, I think, a heavy Mutalisk build, throwing down the Queen's Nest again. So this is actually very similar to what Jaedong went for in the last game against Fantasy on this map. So hopefully he doesn't go exactly the same build where he just goes for a bunch of Hydras or something, although it could actually work out for him this time. Fantasy is not going for exactly the same build. He's going to be late on a bunch of Medic Marines, SK Terran build like that. Evolution Chamber coming up for Jaedong. So yeah, Jaedong's he's going for Lurkers. So he is adapting his play, making sure that Medic Marines can't push and make his life a living hell. And here comes the barracks. So Fantasy is going for something very similar. A different opening, but a pretty similar adaptation here from Fantasy. There are some white people, but at least they aren't that elf guy that was in one of the other games that I had to complain about. Making white people look bad, elfy. There's the panda looking at the SCV, dodging all of the subterranean spines. There's another white guy who's not acting like a jackass, so white people very well represented today. Okay, more Lurkers coming down the map. This is a lot of Lurkers from Jaedong. Wow, a lot of Lurkers from him. So he might actually try to push in with this, but I don't think he's going to be able to take out the front. There's just too much here. Since that turret is there, Fantasy's going to have an instant detection of the front. He has a couple of mines there, so Fantasy has excellent, just minimal defense, but that's going to be enough to fight off these Lurkers. So Jaedong, he might want to think about devoting to a drop strategy. He's getting his Nidus out so he can defend that dual gas at the top. But yeah, other than that, I think he should probably go for a drop tech or something. He's just hanging outside of the natural expansion of Fantasies. Uh-oh, Fantasy coming in with a science vessel, but he is not within range of the Lurkers. But he will probably be able to take down two of these Lurkers if he inches forward a little bit more. Fantasy is transitioning into his build here, getting his macro up and running, but he's only working off two bases again. Taking out one Lurker. Jaedong sees this, backs off. Another Lurker took some damage there, but now he's falling back, trying to hurt the Marines from Fantasy. It's a pretty early push from Fantasy, but I think he has enough tanks to take this all the way to the natural expansion of Jaedong. So Jaedong's going to have to fall back yet again with his Lurkers. A couple of Scourge just flying around trying to find the science vessel. Defilers coming out of nowhere for Jaedong. This is a very fast Defiler build from him, and he's going to be able to push with Dark Swarm and push Fantasy back before Fantasy even gets to the natural of Jaedong's. And Jaedong coming down here with all of his Lurkers. He can't lose all these Lurkers. He saves them with the Dark Swarm. So Fantasy's going to have to run back. But I don't think he lost many Marines there at all. He's separated from his tanks, and that's a big deal. The tanks have got to run back to the natural where there's some defense. But, yeah, it looks like one tank might actually go down. No, Fantasy is sieging here. He's going to be able to, if he scans here, he's going to be able to take out the Lurkers. There's a couple of medics just surround. Oh, irradiates here from Fantasy. Fantasy, in the meantime, is just pushing the front. He's got troops everywhere. When his troops were separated from the tanks, he decided to push them into the natural. But unfortunately, he does not have enough troops to completely push through, especially with Defilers out here. Science Vessel coming in, so these Lurkers are in major trouble. Jaedong's going to lose all of his Lurkers here. Yep, every single Lurker going down. So Jaedong hopefully is grouping up a backup troop. I think he's going for, Hydra Lurker. He's going for a Hydra Lurker attack, and this is one of the best counters to SK Terran in the game. Dark Swarm, you have your Hydras underneath the Dark Swarm, so they can still range units, but they are protected by the Dark Swarm except against tank splash damage. But there are enough Hydras that splash damage really doesn't hurt you too bad. Hydra Lurker build coming in from Jaedong. He's got even more Dark Swarm in here, picking off all the Marines with Hydras. It's always bizarre to see a Hydra Lurker build come out, but it's usually utilized very well by a lot of the newer Zergs, like Bacchus and other Zerg like that have been going for Hydra Lurker a lot. It's kind of an old school build in a way, but it works out very well against this kind of Medic and Marine grouping. Of course, if Fantasy goes for a ton of tanks, if he goes for a lot of tanks, he's going to be able to break this strategy from Jaedong down, even though Jaedong is really keeping up his macros, expanding everywhere, coming down with even more. The Defiler critically goes down, so Jaedong has to back off. He's not going to be able to Dark Swarm there. I think he got a Plague on some troops, but yeah, this is one of the weaknesses of the Hydra Lurker build. Your Hydras are not very good against those Medica Marines, but if you can stay by your Lurkers at all times and get the Dark Swarm on, the Hydras become so deadly. So even more Hydras and even more Lurkers coming up for Jaedong, and he only has to focus on Hydra upgrades right now. He only has to focus on Spine upgrades and Carapace. He doesn't have to worry about melee attack or anything like that, since he's not going for a lot of Zerglings at all. And he's very comfortably mining. Wow, Jaedong is really macroing up. And Fantasy, he's finally getting his fourth base up, so he's macroing up as well. But he's got to keep up a very strong force. I'm actually glad this isn't working out exactly. Oh, a nice Lurker block from Jaedong. He's making all of those Marines go up a very small choke, but yeah, he's going to lose everything here. Jaedong coming out with even more forces. It's a very huge force from Jaedong, and Jaedong is not going to be able to defend that base. He's going to have to cancel that hatchery, and but he will probably be able to go up here and pincer those troops with this Lurker force, and he has a bunch of Hydras in here as well, but I'm not sure if there are any Defilers in tow, but I'm not sure if he's going to need it. He's coming in with all of his Lurkers, fighting with Hydras and Lurkers and pushing Fantasy back into a corner. Fantasy, oh, he's trying to go up with a dropship, but he almost loses the dropship there to a couple of Scourge. He's going to try to drop that double gas expansion. We'll see if Jaedong has anything prepared up there. Some nice harassment from Fantasy. He's coming in with a couple of Marines up here as well, dropping everything into this little alcove at the top of the map. So Jaedong is going to be hard pressed to fight this up, but he does have his Nidus Canal coming in with a Defiler and a Plague there. So, well, Hydras alone might be able to help Jaedong out, but he has to pump those Hydras. He finally takes out all the troops at the 2 o'clock position. So he took care of that attack. It looks like he's finally going to take care of this attack because of the Plague that was on the Marines. Fantasy did manage to take down one of the hatcheries, and I think he delayed that 2 o'clock hatchery for a while. So Fantasy is getting some harassment, but he's going to have to devote himself more to barracks here. He's got to get his macro up. He's been working on getting bases, but he hasn't been working on getting a lot of barracks out at this point. A couple of Scourge, just on hold position there so they don't take out the command centers being floated. Now a few Firebats out for Fantasy. He's going to try to tackle this with Firebats. Of course, Firebats against Hydras, not that great, but Firebats can attack under the Dark Swarm. Oh, Hero Firebat almost takes out the Defiler.